everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel. This time being about a quest that I've been waiting for, basically ever since I got back into the game, being the Dream Till the Timeless End chapter. It released last Wednesday on the global server, and I played through it, obviously. And before I talk about what I didn't like about the chapter and what I did like, first I want to make it abundantly clear. I think the chapter was still fundamentally enjoyable. It was still something that I can pick up, have fun with, and not anything like the boring slog that I felt like I was going through when I was reading Polaris Bond, which I'm sorry if you like Polaris Bond, that chapter was not for me. And another thing, Selena is my favorite character in the game. This seems stupid to say, but considering the chapter was about her, it feels important to say that yes, Selena is my favorite character in the game, and I've been very encapsulated with her ever since Echo Aria, as well as just having a general interest in the character ever since her first introduction, which makes it all the worse that I was incredibly disappointed after finishing this chapter. Now let me talk a bit about why. First, I want to get the overall premise out of the way just so you don't have any questions about that. Essentially, the gimmick here is that Selena is now back in Babylonia, which was explored upon further in her affection stories. But someone else has also made it into this timeline, being the main antagonist of this chapter, Enora Luya. Essentially, Enora Luya's entire plan is to just kill people, to try and change the course of history, because she is from a doomed future. And when Enora Luya puts her sights on the Commandant, that's when Selena steps in, and with her newfound power that she has apparently gotten from Ishmael after what happened in Wither to Shine, she makes a sort of time prison for Enora Luya. She also has to seal herself in this timeline in order to make sure that Enora Luya doesn't escape, which causes everyone to forget about Selena's existence. And the story essentially revolves around Commandant and Selena trying to stop Enora Luya from breaking out of this prison, while also having Selena grapple with the fact that everyone will forget her, including the Commandant, and Selena having to figure out if she can live with this. So from this description, you could probably think, hey, that doesn't sound too bad, so why are we complaining about this? Well, my issue comes with the fact that its focus seems incredibly weird. They've decided to focus on an aspect of Selena's character which, first of all, was never established outside of affection stories. Number 2, instantly annihilates any interest for anyone who doesn't actually care about Selena as a character. And number 3 seems incredibly weird considering the fact that we got a wedding skin for a different character in this update. Because yes, for some reason this chapter is framed as a sort of love story between Selena and the Commandant, with there being scenes of these two going on road trips, shopping together, as well as having a romantic dinner. I don't know why this wasn't saved for the affection stories, that's really weird, but let's talk about that later. Because first off, I want to talk about why the central conflict that Selena has in this chapter just kind of doesn't work. Selena's main conflict within Dream Till the Timeless End is with the fact that she has to grapple with the realization that everyone in the main timeline will forget about who she is, just so she can protect a Commandant that will not even remember the fact that Selena saved them. This is supposed to be the central conflict of Selena's story, the thing that she has to overcome. In the beginning, she was able to make the decision to leave it all behind on her own, and now she has to make that decision again because the Commandant has somehow arrived within this time prison. But this time the decision is harder for Selena because the Commandant is actively there with her. But the reason that this story doesn't really work for me is because the emphasis was not placed on this conflict. Instead, it was placed on the interactions between the Commandant and Selena, basically turning them into a sort of couple. They really wanted you to see that. That was the thing they really focused in on this chapter, rather than Selena's conflict. Which is, in my opinion, just the wrong way to write a story, I'm sorry. I will say that Lucia had a pretty similar gimmick within Shaper's Ripples, but in Shaper's Ripples it was used in an entirely different way. The dynamic between Lucia and the Commandant within Shaper's Ripples was not explored just for the sake of creating fan service, because the central conflict was defined incredibly well, being the fact that Lucia will do whatever it takes to protect the Commandant from harm, including sacrificing everything she has. If the choice was between her or Commandant, she would always pick the Commandant. And because throughout the entirety of Shaper's Ripples, the Commandant is in danger, we get to see Lucia pushed to the absolute extreme. We get to see who she is when we really just tear off everything and leave her only with her instincts. And that is, in my opinion, a very valid reason to explore the relationship between the Commandant and a character. But for Selena, they didn't do this. The established conflict got like 2 scenes, and thus the emotional weight of Selena's choice was not there for me. Especially because when the time does come for Selena to make a decision, she makes it incredibly fast. One day she's thinking about whether to trust her brain or her heart, and the literal next day she's made her decision, without there being any real proof that Selena had a hard time to make this decision. You are able to have the interpretation that the reason that Selena wants to spend so much time with the Commandant is because she wants to make sure that she's done everything she wants to before they're no longer able to interact with each other. Because Selena knows that the second the time prison is finished, she has no chance of ever escaping. But this is never highlighted. It's always focused on the fact that Selena's having a good time, the fact that Selena is enjoying Commandant's presence, but never about the inevitable sadness that is coming, aside from a singular scene where Selena says that farewells are inevitable. So one of my biggest problems with Dream Till the Timeless End is that its focus just felt like it was placed on the wrong thing. Which is really weird because Selena had a literal perfect conflict to base a story around, to the point where there was an entire interlude simply based on setting up this arc for Selena, being the fact that after what happened to her by becoming the Siren and wandering the Earth as a transcendent, Selena had lost her idealism. Selena was originally an idealist. That was like her #1 defining trait. It was the reason that the Arcadia evacuation turned out in the chopped way that it was according to the war veterans. The entire interlude for Capriccio is about the fact that Ayla is scared that Selena will no longer be that idealist that she knew Selena to be. So we quite literally had a perfect setup for an arc for Selena to have, one that was perfectly logical as well. I think it would have been perfect if Dream Till the Timeless End focused on Selena trying to find a future for herself after spending so long not having one. It should have been about her accepting what happened and letting go of that trauma. And technically, she did have this arc. It's just that for some reason, it was in her affection stories, and not in the main story, which is my second problem. Why is the affection story acting as the primary way to view Selena's character arc? Like, be for real with me here. If you were only reading main story, the timeline of Selena would have been really weird, because she would have turned into the Siren, been freed thanks to the Longinus Arsenal, and then she would have wandered the Earth until we meet her in Constellia in Chapter 22. And then, well, after what happened in Wither to Shine, we know that that doesn't happen. But then in Dream Till the Timeless End, the literal next chapter, suddenly Selena has a new frame and she is on Babylonia again? What? That's kinda weird, no? Well, that's because Kuro Games decided to leave the story of how Selena comes back to Babylonia, as well as obtains her new frame, something that they lock behind the affection stories. Pianissimo's affection stories essentially go over Selena's entire timeline from when she was on Earth. Her frame that was composed of the Red Tide was stabilized by Ishmael, and then she essentially wandered the Earth looking for the stories of the land. And she would record these stories because she knew no one else would. Then she got her memories back, was sent to Babylonia, and found out her frame was too unstable, after which a Capriccio frame was remodeled and turned into the Pianissimo frame. However, because of Selena's nature as a transcendent, the mind transfer would have been risky, so we had to ask her if she truly wants to take this risk. And Selena doesn't even hesitate, because she has figured out what she wants. She wants to record the stories of Earth so that even when everything dies, there will be someone out there that remembers their stories. Which, in my opinion, is a good direction to take Selena in. Which makes me ask, Why was this in the affection stories and not in the main story? In my opinion, this entire update story could have been entirely restructured. We should have had Selena's main story, Dream Till the Timeless End, focus on Selena's time on Earth wandering as a transcendent. Perhaps her creating the time prison should have been a task given to her by Ishmael, because Ishmael knows that the current world line is incredibly fragile after what happened in Wither to Shine. And then the new Pianissimo frame should have been a gift from Ishmael to help her do this task. And then Selena's central conflict could have focused on the fact that Selena still doesn't have a life of her own, instead completing a task that was assigned to her by someone else. AKA, she's not living the life that she wants, simply the life that other people need from her. And when Commandant comes into the time prison, they can teach Selena that they're able to make a life of their own, and not just what she expects other people want from her. And then the affection stories could have focused more on the events that we see in Dream Till the Timeless End of Selena inviting Commandant out to dinner or them shopping together, because that's what the affection stories are made for, simply the characters interacting and growing closer to each other. Main story should always be focused on the big lore moments and world building, as well as developing and testing its characters through trial and hardship. An additional gripe that I had with the story is that the short film released in order to tease it, Romer's Stratos, was literally not at all addressed. This animated short film is essentially a performance by Selena, where she performs a piano piece that is trying to encompass her entire life. But when it reaches the attack on the space station, as well as her time as the Siren, Selena goes out of control, with her hair turning white and the features of the Siren becoming more prominent in her design. I thought this was a really powerful moment, and it's really upsetting to me that this was not at all mentioned in the story. If you're just playing the game and never watched this short, you will never know that Selena's hair turning white is a nod to the Siren. If you're just playing the character, you'll never figure out why Selena's ultimate is her hair turning white, and you'll never realize why her ultimates create scars over her body, because it's never addressed in the main story, and I feel like it should have been. This is way too interesting of a detail to simply leave out of the main story. At least simply mentioning the Siren at the sight of Selena's white hair would have been enough for me. But that's just my opinion. What do you think of Dream Till the Timeless End? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. On this channel, I'm basically gonna upload anything I feel like, but primarily a focus on punishing Grey Raven. But that'll be all from me. Peace.